What's up, party people? G5 Productions in the place to be. Superman First Class in the mix, and today we're talking about the 7R Super Beam by Shehds. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Gerald here, excited to share with you guys. And man, this is a milestone video because it is my very first sponsored video. Shehds decided to send me not one but two of their 7R beams, and I'm excited about that. So if you guys want to help me celebrate, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course, to keep up with new videos, all you got to do is rock that bell. Let's talk about these cool lights like that. All right, my people, so right out of the box, you get an instructions manual, a 4-foot PowerCon cable, you get a 6.5-foot DMX cable, 2 hanging brackets, and a 7R beam for me. Pliers not included. Moving on to the physical characteristics of these lights, they are 18.5 inches from the base of the table up to the top of the head right here. And then of course the side handles do ride evenly right up these yoke pieces. That is 11.25 inches on the width, and from the front to the rear of the light, 9.25 inches. Now, as far as the weight, it does come in at just over 22 pounds. The only reason I know that because the book says it's 10.1 kilograms or something like that. So you divide it by pi times 7, add the taxes. Okay, just over 22 pounds. Panning is not continuous for sure. So if I pan it, as far as I can get it to go that way, we have one turn, about a half turn, and just another quarter turn. So you science majors out there with lights, you guys do the rotation on that, right? So, and as far as the tilting goes, maximum tilt that way, maximum tilt that way. 2 LED indicators on the front, which are for the DMX and the error. If something is wrong, you have a display and then a menu button set right here. So arrows up and down, left and right, and of course, OK in the middle. That's how you go into the menu, navigate, make changes, and of course exit out of the menu accordingly. We'll talk about a little bit of that later. And then on the back of the light, you do have DMX in, out, a power on off switch with a fuse right below the power switch, and then you have PowerCon in and PowerCon out. Now most of the times you guys see PowerCon, they are a blue color, so don't be alarmed. This one is just yellow, and it's just the color that they chose to use. And again, these come in at a whopping 4 foot. They do fit safely on the top plate of your vertical truss. I would recommend safety cable or some way to strap these lights down, so you don't want 22 pounds of all this glory to come tumbling down and break, right? Or for that matter, hurt someone. If you guys are going to be hanging these lights upside down, like as in live sound or stage production or something like that, well, that's what the 2 hanging brackets are about. And what I'm talking about is if you all are wanting to hang your lights like that, you have to use those hanging brackets. So let's talk about that. Okay, boys and girls, we're now talking about clamps and brackets. There's a short side and a long side of the butterfly. So I discovered that putting a long side towards the bracket like so versus like this is better, so that way it doesn't hit the feet. So as you can see right here, if I was going to mount these, it's literally hitting the feet right here. So I think the better way to do that is mount it like that. Make sure the other side is in as well. These things are under high tension, right? So I wouldn't even try to go there about proving something with my hands. That's why I got the pliers here. So you put one there and one there, and it's all good. Push it in vertical and then turn it to lock it in place right there. So that's how that works. Now, with regards to the actual clamps that goes to these brackets, you have a couple of things that's going on, right? This style, it has a bolt and a washer that comes with it, so it goes through the bracket and screws in place. And then when you hang this on your truss, you can tighten this down. But here's the problem I run into with this. If I needed to tighten up some tension, at some point it's going to hit. If I need to loosen it, at some point it's going to hit. So the way around this type of clamp is just simply, before you commit to getting everything going, replace this screw with a standard screw like this, but as long, and then that way you can crank down with a wrench. What I would elect to use instead though is an American DJ O clamp, because this has a butterfly, right? So whether it's a bolt or a butterfly, but it's cranked down with my pliers here, right? As you can see, there's nothing in the way to hit this. So the way I would mount this is loosen this T nut right here, and it also has a washer there. But as I let that down, open this up, put it in my truss, crank that down, and voila, just like that. If the truss is a bigger size than say your standard speaker stand size right here, then there's another option, right? And that involves removing these pieces here so that you have a much bigger surface like an R34 size truss. This part right here is giving me a little trouble. I need a screwdriver to get that bottom piece out, but you guys get the point. As you can see here, I have a much bigger diameter with the two pieces if they were both removed, and then I can get this on an R34 truss. Now, I'm not sure if Shehds case accommodates keeping these mounted to here and on the light when you put them down upside down, so that's something I'll be able to know later. One last thing before we turn everything on, these lights have 4 major adjustments that's going on inside the light to make it do what it does, which are the choice between the color wheel. You have a gobo selection wheel. You can have a single gobo projected or prism out to multiples of that gobo. And lastly, you have a choice between focus beam or frost. Most of us will know the frost as wash. So these lights, like I said, are a lot to contend with in this one video. So let's get these turned on after we get it all connected so you guys can see the, boot up sequence and hear the fans. All right, y'all, huddle up. First thing we're gonna do to get this thing powered is we're gonna take our PowerCon cable and we're gonna put it right in here, right? Boom! And then of course we're gonna take this in right here and we gotta plug it in somewhere. And while we're at it, we're gonna go ahead and take care of this light also. So again, we're gonna go power in and we're gonna plug it in here. And while we're at it, we're gonna take a DMX cable because we're gonna daisy chain from the first light. So we're gonna take this cable and we're gonna go to the DMX in. And while we're at it, we're going to take our DMX cable from the other light and we're going to use the DMX output. And then we're going to take this DMX cable, plug it into the DMX input. And from here, it's going over to the DMX controller. Break. So let's pretty everything all up, hide a little bit of wiring right there, and fire these things on in 3, 2, 1. It does have a booting process, as in all of the motors are going to calibrate at some point, and then it's going to also give me a booting up time. Right now it's up to like 33 or 34 seconds. So maybe that is how long the light is on so far. But at some point, the menu comes on. You got the DMX indicator light that we talked about earlier, and the light is now in its beginning position. So after these lights been on for some time, it will go into a screensaver mode. To get into the menu, just press OK. One of the first parts of the menu is the address. So if I wanted to assign this light to a specific fixture button on my DMX controller, I'd have to go into the menu here, hit down to highlight this blue, hit enter here, and from there I could actually change the numbers, right? It'll go anywhere from 1 to 512. And then after that, it will literally go back around to the number 1. Knowing I'm in 16 channel mode, the faster way is for me to highlight next and hit here. So now I'm just assigning my light to number 2, fixture button 3, 4, 5, 6, and etc., etc. And to go back, all I have to do is go back there like so. Now, this light is currently in 16 channel mode. That's why it jumped from 01 to 17 and so forth, because it just adds 16 to the number, right? That's the DMX personality. And if I want to be in 20 channel mode, I just hit enter here while this channel mode is selected. So I'm going to stay in 16 channel mode and get out of this menu by making sure the X is highlighted here and hitting enter. So we have a mode selection. You got all these different functions and features in there. We have a display. So right now, probably the most important things to me is if it's in Chinese or English. So if it's in English and you want to read Chinese, just hit enter while that's highlighted. And it still says language, right? But if you want to change it back to English, if your light came shipped like this, don't despair, just hit that and everything's back to English. Then there is the DMX indicator light. You have different modes. I'll play with that on my own, so I don't know what that's about. But another important thing is the screen. You can actually dim this down, and not necessarily to off, but to really dim, and then it'll circle back around. So 1 through 10 modes of dimming the light. Let's hit OK and get out of this menu here. And then you have scenes. So for those of you who want to go through the manual way of making scenes and selecting colors, you can do that on this light. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not doing that. I'm going to use a DMX controller for that. And then you have an advanced menu. So things in here are like panning, tilting, inverting, and just all kind of cool stuff. I'm going to talk about that specifically in another video. And then you have the status, right? So here you have things like the stepping data, error logging, fixture status, and I think that's about it, right? The rest of this stuff is like preliminary information up here, like 16 channel mode, how long has this light been on so far, and normal mode looks like, and then you have all the menu settings, right? So yeah, boom, give it a thumbs up, everybody. My lights are currently in 16 channel mode. So what that means is each one of these faders controls a function. The very first one here is the color wheel. We have strobing, we have a dimmer wheel, we have gobo to gobo rotate and shaking, and then we have prism rotating. We have a choice between a rainbow or a white effect of the lighting color, and then we have the choice between a focus beam and a wash. Now if I were to bank down to the next set of controls here, we have a focus slider, we have a pan, fine pan, tilt, and fine tilt. We have macros, which are automatic programs that the lights will run through, and this resets the effects, pan and tilt, or the entire system, and this right here turns the lamp on or off. Okay everybody, so first I want to take you all through the aesthetics portion of it, like all the colors and features, and then I'm going to take you through all of the movements. First things first, we have a color selection, but before I can even show you the actual color, I have to first engage the dimmer and the strobing wheel. So I'm going to push those two up, and that keeps my lights on, and by default it starts at the color white. It goes from a white to a split color of white and orange, then it goes to full orange, and that just continues as I move up through the wheel. At some point it is going to start moving through all of the colors from fast to slow, and then of course it will rotate into the opposite direction even, and it starts to become faster until very, very fast, rotating through the colors. The other one is a strobe. So what happens there is, it's not strobing as in the lights are cutting off and on very quickly like you would do your light switch in your house, but what happens is there's an iris that rotates in front of the light. So very slow, like so, iris open to iris close, very fast, and at some point it starts to go really slow again, and then it starts to pick up and go fast again, right? So there it is. In order to keep strobing to 0, you have to push that slider all the way up. Now as far as the dimmer goes, you have an iris inside that literally closes a little bit at a time until the light is not able to project through, right? So you will get an eclipse effect, and the iris is fully covering the light, and then it just opens up a little bit at a time to show you some light, then more and more until the iris is fully removed in front of the light. Now the next thing we have going on here is the different gobo patterns. There are a lot to choose from, and at some point they will rotate through the gobos, slow to fast, and then at some point it rotates in the opposite direction, again from slow to very fast. And also you have gobo shakes from different patterns. The shake options are slow, medium, fast if you finesse the fader just right. Now what the prism effect does is it takes a single gobo and it opens it up into multiples of that same gobo. Now if you want to rotate, don't get rotating through different gobos confused with it makes that gobo wheel rotate that single gobo, right? So that's what this is in essence, and it does go from slow to very fast, and it also reverses directions as you see. The next function is between color wash or a whitewash, and that's only effective once you have gobos prismed out. So if you have a single gobo, it really looks like all of these colors in the wheel are just squeezed into that one gobo, and at some point it could probably just look like a mesh of just some colors, right, in a small shape. But when you prism out the gobo, then you really get to see the effect of that color wheel versus the all white wheel. The last control of the first 8 controls the difference between wash or beam. On the next set of controls, we have the very first control as a focus. Your gobo may or may not be able to be seen as what shape it is. It might just be a blur of light. So the focus wheel helps you to adjust and get that gobo in focus. That's really cool in programming. So if your light is pointing like close right here, it may be out or in a focus differently from if it's, you know, 20 feet that way or up in the ceiling at 30 feet, right? So when you're programming, just know that that's something to contend with. Then you have panning. Now my first pan is like moving these lights in a wild motion, like full pan. And you can get in, you know, certain positions and stuff like that. But let's say if you wanted to get it in that very fine pan, that's what the very next control is. And it makes this moving head pan only really micro. So at the light itself, it's barely moving, but out at a distance, that can mean a difference between the gobo moving like 1 or 2 feet, or, you know, 4 or 5 feet, depending on how far the gobo is projecting and where it's at. So that's cool if you want to get your light pointed at a specific spot and the major pan is just not doing it for you. So with the tilt, it's the same way. You get that very wild tilt, and anywhere in between it's, you know, maximum positions. However, if you wanted to get a very fine tilt, like just enough, that's where the fine tilt control comes in. So as you can see, it moves it just up and down barely. And again, the movement of that projection is subject to if it's really close to you on the wall or really far away. Then you have what's called macros. So all that does is it makes the lights do different things. They go through different motions, different adjustment, different positions, as you can see here. And if I move up and down, like right now it's going through all these colors and just doing whatever. And you have different macros you can control by moving that particular slider to different positions. Basically, it's almost like an auto, like let the lights do what they want to do. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the reset of effects, pan and tilting in the system itself. So if you move that slider up into a certain position, it will at some point then reset the entire light. So this would be equivalent to the light when it first comes on. And why would you use a feature like that? Maybe it's at the end of the night, you want to just reset all your lights to a certain position, and that helps you with taking it down and put it in a box or something like that. Or what if your light show is kind of wigging out and tripping and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to reset everything. So that's literally what's happening here. Now, in the case of me operating a DMX controller, after these lights go through their whole reset process, what's going to happen is they're going to go to their last control of the DMX controller. So that's what's happening here. And then last but not least, there's a turning the lamp on or off. So as we turn to a certain position, anywhere less than 100, at some point we'll turn these lights off. And then of course, when I want these lights to come back on, then I just simply turn it past, anywhere past 100 to 255, and then eventually these lights will come on. Now, I will say this much. As you can see, the lights does not immediately come back on. After some seconds, they will slowly fade from dim to back full on. And I'm not sure how many seconds does that take, but it is taking a little bit too long for my liking. But there might be a reason why you would want to use a feature like this versus hitting the blackout button, for example. I think that maybe you just don't want these particular lights on all day or something like that, but maybe some other light fixtures turned on. So there's a way around everything. I just think that, you know, this is how these lights work. And as you can see, after all that time of me talking, the lights are coming back on and they are less dim to, they're literally getting brighter, but a little bit at a time, right? So just kind of wanted to give that to you all to let you know how all of the movement plus resetting and turning the light off and on works. So let's move on to the final segments of this video. All right, party people, so let's wrap it up and talk about some things that are my concerns, and then of course, what would I like to highlight about these that are very, very good. My first concern is the noise. Man, these lights are loud, and I could tell you right now, at certain events like a military ball or wedding, they would be distracting to me during toast or say the Fallen Conrad table at a military ball, because that's a very quiet and focused moment for the guest, and I think that I wouldn't want these on. So one solution for me already is they do have a way to turn them off on the lights, or I could just unplug them. There's a heat component to it, but you know, it's a halogen bulb fixture, so you just gotta deal with it, I guess. But I'm used to all the LED fixtures that I use so far, so it's kind of new into my world of dealing with something that emits that kind of heat. Now, there were no places on the light that I was able to touch and be unsafe or feel like it was too hot, to include the actual glass. But only a few feet away, that thing was emitting some heat, and I kind of felt that radiation. So why is that? Maybe because, you know, it focuses all of that halogen bulb power right into a nice beam and just creates nice heat. So just got to be conscious on where you put these lights, where you're pointing these lights in relationship to the guests. But as long as everything is moving and, you know, doing this thing during partying, I don't think that's such a big deal at all, right? So what do I love about this? The price. Man, these lights range between $300 and $400, right? Give or take. They're more closer to the 300 mark, but depend on when you catch the sales and their offerings, right? I was already in the market for some hybrid or, you know, beam and wash lights, so I didn't know which way to go. But these lights to me are a hybrid, because not only do they operate as a standard moving head with gobos in different colors in it, but it also have a focused beam option to it and a wash out. So that is a plus. That is a lot of capability, and I just got to say that I'm super impressed about that and stoked. So for the price of, you know, somewhere in a $300 range, like boom, this is it. This is on the money. And how bright they are. Man, these lights got 230 watts of go-getter coming right out the front of this light. And let me tell you, that is impressive to me, and I can't wait to use these next week at my next military ball. So I will be getting you guys more videos as I'm using these out in the field at both weddings and military functions, or even other types of events for that matter when I do my live sound. The weight is manageable. I feel like I can move these lights around comfortably on my own, to include hanging them up on any trussing without the aid of someone else. And I think that they are the perfect size for what I would want to use them for. And as far as the off button, that's a plus for me, because I think it offers an easy option for me without having to black out my entire light scene, where I could just turn these off but still have all my up lights and freedom sticks and, you know, more quiet lights going, versus these things are making that fan noise in the background, right? But then again, when it's time to party in, or you're in cocktail mode or something, and all these people are making ambient noise and talking, that's not even an issue. That won't even be a problem. I think that they are excellent for the price. I know that Shehds do make good products. Some of my fellow DJs even have lights like these, so I do know what they're capable of. I think I was just more used to the company that I use for lighting. Right now, it's all about Shehds, and I could tell you, with regards to any moving heads, I am in the market to try other stuff, BI type of lights, or these hybrids. So I will be getting 2 more of these plus cases, because I don't want to be toting these around inside the box like this, because that will be cumbersome. And the advantage of getting the case, one, they fit down inside the case nicely, and of course they're more protected and custom for these lights. In the fact, I could put stuff on the case and roll it in and out the venue, right? So it's a plus in all kind of ways. Plus the cases can actually serve as a place to put these lights on and project if I'm doing like a stage or a ground stack type of, you know, projections with these lights. So there's a lot of advantage to going that route. But other than that, I think that Shehds have made a great product. If you guys want to know any of their other offerings, I will put a link down in the description below. So what can you guys do to help me celebrate this milestone video? you could smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, we're always looking for new members of the G-Fire Nation. Become a part of the family. That would help us greatly. And of course, to keep up with any new videos, all you got to do is rock that bell. If you want to know more about Shehds, again, I'll put a link in the description below. And if you want to learn more about what we do here at G-Fire Productions, then visit www.gfireproductions.com. Let's party.